Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of State of the Union. If you're listening online, you've probably read the episode title by now. But if you somehow missed that, put down the phone, get off Spotify, get off Apple Podcasts, come on over to YouTube and watch it because we're sitting down for another interview. So excited for today. Sitting down with Blaine from Politics. Blaine, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, man.
Little claps.
I'm excited. Thanks, guys.
Man, I know, I've been wanting to get you on for a while, and then I've been bugging Tanner about it ever since, so.
Well, I know I don't remember the first time y'all reached out to me, but yeah, I'm glad we were able to make it happen. It did take probably a little too long. Nah. It's not like we were busy. It's like there's a global pandemic going on.
Yeah, true.
More time.
To be fair, we tried to get at least somewhat good at doing interviews. Never done interviews before, so hey, maybe before we start interviewing pretty important people at a very big company, maybe we I get the feel of what interviews are supposed to look like.
Our surprise is every guest has been way more receptive to it than we thought we would have to reach out and be like, oh yeah, maybe I'll get back to you and plan it. So we're like, perfect, gives us time to kind of hone our craft, get a couple of these under our belt. But then we hit up you or Adam, it's like, yep, name the time. And I'm like, he called my bluff. Okay, all right.
Well, I was thinking, man, I am the most, vain person you'll meet. So I'm like, just sign me up.
Sign me up to sit down and talk about myself for a while.
Hey, works with us. Yeah, we keep thinking oh yeah, we're going to have this resume of being like, yo, look, these are the interviews we've done. We've been doing the podcast for a while. We're serious and stuff like that. Yeah, it's been super great. It's awesome to be able to reach out to, to you and everybody who we've done. And everybody's just like, yeah, no, bet. Got it.
Yeah.
That's because I don't really think anything much of, I know this sounds bad. Derek's probably going to be like, shut up, Blaine. But I don't think what we're doing is that crazy. I love that people love what we do. Yeah. But to me, it's just I guess I just love it so much.
I was going to say, from the outsider perspective, I promise you it is. But I guess,
to
from
me,
the
it's just
inside,
this is what we do. We wake up and we, do cool shit.
Yeah, so
I'm glad that y'all think it's cool because that makes me feel kind of yes.
All we do is just keep making stickers of shoes you designed and sending them to you and please be friends with us.
Which I really do like those stickers.
Awesome,
thank you.
I'm glad. Yeah, so let's take it back then before you even came on board with Politics. For everyone listening that doesn't know, that probably knows your work but doesn't know you by face or name, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and kind of how you even got into the world of sneakers?
Yeah, my name's Blaine. I grew up in what Derek loves to say, Walker, but it was Denham Springs, actually, for anybody that knows.
It's a hard line.
It's a very hard line, and that line is crystal meth. So I grew up in Denham Springs, and so I always wanted to do this. I used to make T-shirts. I've probably gone through 5 brands names.
Detail was one of them.
Detail was one. I have the first one that I really took serious was this brand called Popular.
Okay.
And I really wanted to push that heavy. And then I did Ate the Ape, which a guy, I won't say his name because he might be embarrassed now, but he has it tattooed on his arm.
Ooh.
And I'm always thinking to myself, I'm like, man, if I ever make something in my life, I got to take care of this guy.
He really believed though.
He believed more than I believed, I think. So thank you. But so growing up, pretty normal childhood. Nothing crazy. But when I was in high school, me and my friend were just really big into clothing and just tennis shoes. Not really tennis shoes heavy. I was more clothing for me, but I for sure wanted to be in fashion. I was I have to do something with this. I was obsessed with Karl Lagerfeld, and then as I got more into social media, you start to find things around the world. It's easier to access things. So I found out what Colette was, and I just became obsessed with Colette.
Yeah.
And everything they did, I was obsessed with it. And I was like, okay, so I want to be in fashion, and I was obsessed with Colette, and I realized, we need a Colette here in Denham Springs.
Not Baton Rouge, not New Orleans. Denham Springs is ready.
So I was like, I'm going to open a store, and that was my main goal. So I wanted to go to New York out of high school, but my mom really put a stop to that pretty quickly. And we talk about it to this day. If she would have let me go, what that could have been like, but probably a faster wake up call. But it would have been a great experience, I think.
That's true.
But so after college, or kind of as I was finishing college up, we had a senior project where you were supposed to create this business of what you were trying to do. That's what I majored in, marketing.
Okay.
After changing my major a few times, but I used this brand called Detail. It was a fake store, and I had to build the store out. And as I built that business plan as a project, I was like, why don't I just use this for real?
Yeah.
So I pitched it to this guy in Baton Rouge. his name was Rob, and he owns Mopar magazine.
Okay.
Him and my stepdad actually go back, and they started Mopar at LSU together.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like a college newspaper.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, didn't take it seriously. He was like, my dad's a CPA, so he graduated and he does that now. But this guy was like, oh no, I'm still obsessed
I'm going
with
to keep
cars.
running with it. Yeah.
So he made it to a full magazine and he turned it into his life. And he owned this rundown garage on North Foster in Baton Rouge, which was kind of like a sketchy neighborhood.
Yeah.
And now I went to Baton Rouge the other day and it was like insanely different. Like government is awesome now. It's cool. So that would have been, maybe I was a little too early then, but so we started the garage, which was a men's clothing store. The concept was men who kind of just like didn't like the mall vibe. And we basically would kind of like pick out their clothes for them. We would deliver their clothes like if they couldn't come.
Wow.
Like it was, But it was also like a cool hangout spot because most guys love cars and like beer. So we were able to like kind of house this garage. Like this clothing part was a very small section of this giant warehouse with his collector Mopar cars back there.
Okay.
So the build out was insane. It was sick.
Yeah.
We had different ideas of like what was supposed to happen. He's, I think like at the time was like probably late 40s, early 50s, and I'm 20. So
maybe your lives are a little bit different, your perspective on things.
If you could imagine a 50-year-old dressing like a 20-year-old, like
different views.
It doesn't really work. So, but I was able to go to like markets and everything. Like that was my first intro to that. So I was like, cool. And I kind of had always hung out at Ruckus with Ronnie and those guys there. And Ronnie's always been like, he's everybody's favorite uncle, but I took it for real. Like I wanted to be him all the time. I would tell him how much I wanted to be him. And he was like, no, you don't want to be me. This shit is hard, man. Like this is not a life where you get rich and like all these things. Like, I don't care.
And
like,
especially so many kids like listening now today, just see like, oh, a skate shop, I'm going to get SB dunks and it'll be easy.
Exactly.
But it's like, that was not the case.
Yeah. Ronnie
ago.
did take me to New York early on in my life. Like I think I was like 16 or 17 maybe. He took me to New York with him for a market and I was like blown. I don't know if he was trying to like deter me from this lifestyle, but I was like, you just made me
like
more
exposure
turned on.
therapy.
Yeah.
And he's like,
seriously.
trust me, you don't want this.
I'm like got a heart on in there. I'm like, so I was like sick, but so the garage I kind of did under his wing too, like advice wise. Like Ronnie was definitely like part of the reason that I was able to do a lot of things. And then I don't know how long it lasted, the garage, but it wasn't very long. Maybe a little under a year, maybe.
Okay.
And I made like $0.
Yeah.
And I was in there a lot by myself, which was so boring. And talking to Derek now, like Derek's stories are exactly the same. So I'm like, man, what if I would have just stayed? But so I quit and then I went to live with my parents. I moved back in with my parents and I was like, I'm going to go work for my dad, which was, as you can imagine, probably not fun at all. And so I did that.
He was in the engineering field, you said?
Yeah. So my dad he's in electrical engineering and he owns a company. He didn't own it at the time, but like he's part owner now. And it's kind of like growing up, like all of our parents are best friends. They all work together. And so there's different guys that are my age and we kind of like grew up together and they're all working within the company now. And it's an amazing company. They take better care of their employees than any other company I've ever been with. But it was just like very 9 to 5-ish, like desk job, which there was a fridge with beer that we could drink at work.
It had perks.
Yeah. So MMR, if you're listening to this, anybody from there, like, that was a perk. I'm not complaining, but I did get offered, like I think I started out kind of as an intern. I had to work in the plants, which is also any kid that says their life is hard or never had a job. Like I suggest go work in a plant and you'll learn really quick that anything is better than that. But so I worked in the office for a little while and I got offered a job and this was definitely the turning point in my life. They offered me a job. They were really impressed with the work I did. My parents, I do credit my parents. I have a pretty solid work ethic, I would say. And I didn't know.
I would agree.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about what I was doing. They were just teaching me as I went along because I was just an intern. But I took it and, never was late for work. I didn't take off like sick days, you know what I mean? Like like solid things. And like anybody, like kids now, like they have all these excuses for why, but there's certain things are like, I'm not the most talented graphic designer, but like one thing I do is like, it's like showing up on time. Like those principles are what really will move you forward in life, I think.
Soft skills.
Yeah. So when they called me in for my like review, they were like, we're really impressed with you. And like, we're going to offer you this full-time job, great salary, especially for a starting kid who had zero money that lost it all from the few dollars I had. I lost it in the garage. But I was like, this is great. Like, and they were like, you also get 2 weeks of vacation, paid vacation. And I was like, oh, but like, I need more than that. They were just like, no, it's like 2 weeks paid. Like you can take off, but like you're gonna get paid. I'm like, no. I was like, I need like off whenever I want. And they were just like, it's not really how life works. And I was like, then I'm gonna skip out on this. And like my dad was like, I didn't work under my dad at the time. Like my dad was in a different department and I was in accounting. And so like the guy that was my boss is like best friends with my dad. And I had to like run from the accounting office to my dad's office faster than he could call my dad because I knew he was going to call my dad and be like, yo, I just gave your son a full-time job and he turned it down. So I'm like sprinting to my dad's office. I'm like, like I had to explain it. Get my side first. So I told my dad, like, I was like, Dad, I just can't. Like, I feel like I'm trapped. I had like a moment of anxiety where I was just like, oh my God, this can't be my life. I can't do it. And so my dad was like, son, what? Like, you're an idiot. Like, we're literally giving you this on a platter. But I was like, I just can't, Dad. Like, I just don't, this isn't what I need to do right now. And it's not for me. And I had part-time jobs at Foot Locker. And my dad used to joke, me and my brother both did, which was really fun. And my dad used to joke with us all the time. He's like, oh, you got to go sell tennis shoes? Like, all this stuff. Like,
well,
just
joke's on you, Dad.
They're watching this. But no, I was like, so when I told him that I had been hearing about Derek. I didn't know him, but Fletcher from Baton Rouge me and him used to kind of do some trades. Like I worked at Foot Locker, so if he didn't get something, we could kind of do some stuff. I never really needed anything from Fletcher because at the time, like I was like, I don't really care about shoes. Like I was wearing Vans. Like I wasn't really obsessed with it. I was just more obsessed with the idea of a store and like the build out and like I don't know. I was just more obsessed with the culture versus the actual product at the time. But I had heard about it through Fletcher, like building New Orleans out. Charlotte, I think, was racist. I guess the whole city is racist. So they moved All-Star Game. Yeah, I don't know. I never read the book. So
I saw the movie and I read the Spark Notes and that's what I got from it.
The clip notes. So that was whenever All-Star Game got moved to New Orleans. And Derek, knowing Derek now, it's funny that he was able to throw all these stores together so quickly. He really busted his ass. And Fletcher kind of gave me some words, and I was like, "Man, you think Derek would let me work for you guys, like whatever?" And I came here one of the weekends, the All-Star weekend, and met Derek for like a brief moment, like just shook his hand. It was actually in this exact store. Oh wow, which is kind of cool now. About it. But shook his hand, and Fletcher was like, "Yeah, this is a kid, like he's cool, whatever." So when Derek opened full time these stores, like he was like, if you move down here, I guess. So I slept in my friend's kitchen. I moved like my bed.
Dang.
And she was like, yeah, you can give me like $400 a month. You could. She worked a lot like traveling, so she was like, you can just like throw it up. And she had a kitchen with no dining table, so she was like, you can fit a mattress.
Got room for that, yeah.
So I did that for like 4 or 5 months. Her name's Sarah, which I probably owe her something now too.
Sarah, if you're listening, we're gonna get back to you. Yeah. So
she let me do that. It was in Lakeview, so I would drive my car to Treme, which is the closest free parking. Take my bike out, bike in every single day. Yeah. And in the summer, that shit's no joke. Like I'm showing up sweaty, it was gross. Yeah. But that was the beginning of politics, and I started working with Lee, and from there, the rest is just like, Wow. So that was the backstory. I don't know if you want to get into anything.
No, that's great. I mean, I think like the quickest thing we can take away from that is like for anyone listening to just like that 5 or 10 minutes and thinks like maybe this came easy, or like, oh, if anyone listening has dreams of doing what you do, listen back to that 10 minutes and listen to the hustle at every step.
Listen to it 100 times.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that is my biggest pet peeve is now I do get, like now I feel really comfortable like in life. I'm very happy. I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in my life. And it's not because of luck. There is a part of luck, and I believe the universe has its way of like making things work. Sure. But my biggest thing is like, and I kind of tell myself this every day, is that you have to put yourself in a position to receive the blessings that are going to come to you.
Absolutely. Exactly.
And I feel like a lot of times we block our own blessings by like, and just like to sum it up in a quick way, but like if I would have stayed at that job, like Derek wouldn't have never taken me seriously in the sense of like, you know, trying to do what I wanted to do. And it's like now people are like, oh, you're so lucky. Like you get to go to Portland to the Nike campus. I'm like, That's not lucky. I was like, I legitimately believe I have a spot at that table and I'm meant to be there.
So slept on the floor in a kitchen for 4 or 5
Well,
months.
I had a mattress. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I don't mean to put you
I was like on the tile. Yeah. Sarah's house wasn't that bad.
Like a cardboard box or a blanket.
Yeah.
But I mean, just like you talk about stuff like that, like opening a store and like learning from why it didn't work and just, passing up on that job opportunity. Like you took risks, you worked your ass off.
Yeah.
So it's like nothing you have was like necessarily given to you on a silver platter. You worked for it. You earned it, I would say.
Yeah. And I mean, anybody that really knows me, they might roll their eyes at that. For sure, I definitely felt like I could take more risks in my life because I did have a parachute. I come from a great family and my parents would never let me sleep under the bridge here. Yeah. But I told myself that a ton of times. Like I was like, just moved to New Orleans. Like I had no job yet secured. I wasn't making any money yet. I was like, man, like worst comes to worst, like just eat peanut butter sandwiches a lot, $1 menu. I was like, but worst comes to worst, if you sleep under the bridge one night, you'll probably be fine. And when I first moved here, I was partying and like pretty heavy, like a lot of drinking, maybe other extracurriculars, but
hey, when in Rome.
Yeah, I think that's a really funny story. Like whenever I first moved here, like I have a couple friends here, and this is Sarah, one of those people. I have a couple other friends, but they introduced me to like the New Orleans night scene, going out clubbing and stuff like that, and
slightly different from Denham Springs Walker, I would imagine.
A little bit, less bonfires, less camouflage.
Okay. All right.
But
you're kind of not selling me.
Yeah.
So
one time, like we went out and like we were out till like maybe like 7 a.m. and I had to work at 11.
Yeah.
And I was thinking in my brain, like whenever I'm out partying, I always get anxiety about the next day time. I always start counting. I'll go, okay, if I go to sleep right now, I'll get 6 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
But I'll be like at the bar saying this. I'm like obviously I can't.
If I go in a corner and curl up with a blanket.
Yeah. So I kept doing that all night, and it's like 7 a.m., then 8 a.m., and I had to be at work at 11. Like we opened at 11.
Yeah.
And it's just me and Lee that run the store, so there's no calling out. And I was like, okay. So we're in the quarter, like a couple blocks down from here, and it's like probably 8 a.m. I'm like, why would I go home? Because if I get too comfortable, I'm gonna miss my alarm.
Yeah.
So I just went in the stock room and like made this little bed out of our shipping boxes.
Yeah.
And I like passed out. And then Lee gets to work, and Lee is like Lee is probably the backbone of our company because he's the only one that has a stern hand and you know what I mean? Like Lee is the man. Like he's, you don't fuck with Lee.
All right.
So Lee shows up, sees me like just zonked out like of a night of partying, and he just like calls Derek. He's like, dude, what the hell did you send me?
Who did you bring in?
Yeah. What? And Derek was like, I love that kid. He's like, this is awesome. Because if you know Derek, like Derek loves to party too. We love to have a good time. So Derek was like, dude, at least he's on time for work. Like, So that is another life lesson. Like, I don't care what you did the night before, you better be at work. Like, yeah. So that was a funny story. I love that story because I feel like that's the transition from me and Derek going from like employee, boss to like, he's like, oh, this is a cool kid.
Yeah. To friendship from there. Yeah.
So yeah, that was fun.
Timeline wise, then when did designing shoes really come into the picture there? I know you started with customizing for a little bit.
Yeah, I customized like growing up. It's funny. I used to like watch. I'm probably gonna butcher this. Don't hate me. Mosh, the customs, like the big guy. Okay. But I used to watch him and just paint because I'm a trained painter. Like that's what when I was a kid, I went to I was in like a gifted program for painting and picked that up from my grandma like forever ago. Like growing up in summers at my grandma's, like she's a watercolor painter and she taught me how to paint. So I've always done that. And where are we going with this? Oh,
customizing
shoes. Yeah. So when I got on board, there was probably like 3 or 4 politics t-shirts in the store already.
Okay.
And Lee was like, oh yeah, these are like very old t-shirts. We did them like years ago. We just brought them to New Orleans. Like this is a new store, whatever.
Right.
I'm like, these shirts are garbage. Like these are trash. I would never wear these colors.
First day at the store, first time meeting everyone. Let me give you a little constructive feedback real quick. Yeah.
No offense, but these suck ass. And like nobody bought them. They literally sat on our shelves.
I mean, I guess the proof is in the pudding. If they've been here for 3 years, tell me I'm wrong. Right? Yeah.
So cool. And I had like experience with like screen printing and stuff like that. Like I said, I've done a couple brands in the past. And so I was just like, me and Lee would sit on the behind the register chilling, and I had my computer every day, and I would just kind of mock up stuff that I thought was cool. And then I don't really remember. Maybe Lee told me to tell Derek, but I just remember showing Derek, and he's like, "Cool, let's run it." Like he's like, "Can you do it?" I was like, "Well, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'll figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I just we used a company out here, screen printed, no big deal. But the shirt's like actually sold.
Mm-hmm.
So then me and Lee are like, wait, we might have got a little something going on here. Cause we used to we loved like getting a coffee, chilling, just like bouncing ideas. Like we had such a great chemistry, still do. Like he's my homie forever, but like he would come up with some cool ideas and I would come up and we would bounce ideas and tweak each other's ideas. And we actually started like moving shirts for real. So we're like, oh, this is sick. And I think Derek was like, great, order more so that we can have some in Lafayette and like all these, you know.
Yeah.
And it just became cool. And then as I saw that Derek was appreciating that more, because Derek, he said this in every interview he's had, he's always wanted to have a solid in-house brand for politics.
Yeah.
So whenever when we had a discussion about that, I'm like, okay, so if that's what you want, that's what I can do. Like I'll learn it. Like, and he said that on one of his last interviews that I listened to, that within the company, nobody had a position. Like there's people now that want to work for us and they'll say like, oh, I want to, do you have this position open? It's like, there's no such thing as positions here.
Right.
We all have to do everything. And like, whatever you decide to hone in on, that's you. Like we have a dude that is good at doing orders and he makes sure all of our online orders go out a certain way. And he's a very valuable person. I took it upon myself. I'm like, I'm going to make sure our brand is represented the right way through product. And so that's what I take seriously, you know, but it's not like I'm the only one that can do it here. That's why I really don't even like titles in the company, because we're all just homies just trying to make this shit cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everyone's working towards the same goal of elevating.
Yeah. And I think that's the great thing, kind of how you were saying, almost essentially with what started everything was not wanting to essentially be put in a box of like, this is your position, you will be doing this.
Right.
Politics essentially operates with the thing that you were pushing against was not having a position and this is all you could do. You know, this is just you excel at this part, but you could also help with other areas. And then it just allows people to find naturally what they are just good at or what they have an interest in and say, okay, I may not be good at it now. I'm super interested in this area. I'm going to push forward with it. Or like you said, online orders, making sure that goes out. Probably not a passion project, but found a way to make it like, hey, this is enjoyable for me. I love this. I can now handle this, you know. So the way politics has that structured, that free form, almost chaos way, turns out it has an actual like order to it. Right. And everybody just kind of eventually figures out on their own where to go.
I think Newman is very passionate about orders though.
Yeah?
Yeah. Hey,
Newman.
You know what it is.
Clearly, he's got
Let's get him shipped out on time.
Yeah, he's the real MVP.
Yeah.
But you know, it does come down to that too, man, because in New Orleans, I'll be the first to say I'm not the best manager person. I'm not great at that. I try to make everybody happy and do like lead by example, but we have a lot of young kids that, you know, we hired and like they've never really been exposed to like certain things in this industry. And for me, it's things like traveling and seeing, like I'll never forget the first time I went to Concepts or Bodega, like, and it's like that energy that these stores have. I'm like, we're constantly trying to raise that bar and like be on those levels of like kiths and like things like that. And like, it's crazy that we kind of are that level of the South. Like there's nobody touching us down here, which is amazing, but it comes with like us really like treating this like everybody is the same level of importance. Like the person that works the sales floor greeting a customer is the same. He has the same level of importance as I do, pushing product behind closed doors, because like, you know, you'll never forget the person who walks in off the street is never going to forget that. And like when I first met Derek, Ronnie's an amazing person about doing this too, but like creating that vibe, man, like if people don't want to come here, we lose, man. Like that's it's not even worth doing anymore. Like
our own
doing this, like, why are we talking about shoes? Like people are like, why do people care? I'm like, I don't know why people care, but I'm glad they do.
But I'll keep cranking them out.
I love it too.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't get why people love it so much, but I love it so much.
Yeah. So getting on board with doing design at Politics, was it a little bit easier having what I would call such a heavy hitter under your belt? The Crawfish dunk?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know, man. Like, me and Derek never talk about it. But Derek is not a dunk guy. He doesn't really love them. So I don't think he might have a pair though. Him and Ronnie go way back. But the story behind the Crawfish dunk was my first like introduction into, like, I guess I would say real design. Yeah. Because I actually had to like answer to corporations at that point. So if you're not familiar with the SB, it was Ruckus's 10-year anniversary, which I'm sure you guys know. 10-year anniversary dunk. The guys at Ruckus, they're very similar in the sense of like, yo, we're just figuring this shit out. Like how we day by day.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my best friends, Hunter Hewlin, he took over like the head of that project. Like he was crushing it. Came up with the concept, all these things. Mark Fresh, who was just a homie there. He's an amazing artist as well. And he had a big play in all of this too. Okay. And we all just kind of like just chopped it up. And I kind of took over the packaging. I was like, this is what I want to kind of focus on. Because Hunter mostly had the shoe already. Like he had this idea of what he wanted it to be. And I thought it was sick. I still do. Mm-hmm. It's great. So I took over the packaging and I was like, we're going to make the packaging even cooler. Yeah. And Nike's like, we're not going to give you a special box, but you're welcome to like source it and figure it out. And so that's another thing that I like. I don't really consider myself a graphic designer as much as I am like a production person. Like I like to, I don't know. So we sourced these boxes, found a guy in Miami who could make us shoe boxes and all these things, and figured that out along the way. And this, I don't really believe in luck, but I guess this would be a part of luck. But my dad happened to like date this chick in high school, like nothing serious, but like my dad was something else. But he was like dating this chick whose family owns Louisiana Fish Fry Company, which is like the famous Louisiana logo where they do crab boil, all these things. So I like told my dad, I'm like, yo, we have this idea. I don't even think my dad really realized how big this could have been. And I'm like, just ask her if we can like use this logo. Like I'm going to mock it up with a Ruckus thing instead of this. And so my dad did. And she was like, yeah, I'm fine with it. Like school project.
Verbal agreement. Yeah.
I was like, in Louisiana, this is legal. I was like, handshake.
We're taking
exactly.
This.
Yeah.
So we did that. And then, the packaging came out great. And like most people thought that was an amazing part of that project. It really kind of elevated it because you could buy the dunks, but if you didn't have the full packaging with like the socks and like the shirt, everything like, that was where you won. You had to hunt.
I spent the past 2 years tracking down the special packaging and I finally have it now. Thankfully, I got ahead of this big SB wave that came because right now, we'd said the same thing with Adam. If you don't have a pair, it's too late now. Like you're going to spend 100%. An arm and a leg, but
that pair that's behind you, that's my personal pair, never has once touched the ground. Like it's never touched the ground. I'm not a dunk person either. Like the tongue is too fat for me. But it's never touched the ground. And now I'm kind of like, I don't ever want to wear them because I
not
just
a dunk person.
Them.
Houston editor, I'm going to give you a challenge. Can you pan down to Blaine's feet right now and just?
Well, I got to shout out to my Nike family, Connie and Kayla. They sent me these. So I was like, I'm going to wear them. But yeah, so the dunk was cool. And one of my favorite things about the dunk, which was a total accident, was we went to the Varsity and like they have like their free newspapers outside, you know, and we stole them all for paper because we didn't have Nike paper either. Yeah. So we were like, this will work. But now that I think about it, it was like a genius design because it's dated.
It's a timestamp.
Yeah. So it's a timestamp. So if you don't have that original newspaper, which I think Lil Jon is
I was just about to make that
which
comment.
I don't know why he's on it. He's like, I guess he was playing the Varsity, but I'm like, looking back now, I'm like, if Lil Jon ever wore the dunk.
There's just so much about it. We did a whole episode about packaging. I am a notorious burn box.
Oh, I love that's my absolute favorite.
So I apologize.
I'm right there with you.
Apologize for you. Yeah, shoe boxes to me, out the door. Now, I also have never had the opportunity to buy a shoe. Well, I guess I did have an opportunity once.
Which one?
Cafe du Monde.
Oh yeah, we'll get there.
I listened to that one. But we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Yeah. So I've never had the opportunity for a special box. So it's usually just like, just a regular Nike box, stuff like that. So, but I have now, I guess with doing this podcast and being very close friends with Ryan, have an actual love for the box. And like you said, I mean, the newspaper, it was such a simple idea and you're like, whatever, this will do. But then it just fits unbelievably well with everything, the shoe, the box. I mean, just everything came together so perfectly with that whole production.
Storytelling. Every one of my
Little
friends,
John.
Little John is storytelling.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. But I mean, like, it really speaks to the whole experience. And like, that's the whole thing we love about sneakers so much. It's not necessarily the hype culture or the fashion aspect of the resell. It's the story that you can tell through footwear. It's kind of like art you can wear for your feet, and
totally.
Packaging is just an extension of that, so
for a minute I was like, it was so corny, and I heard myself say it later, so I stopped saying it, but people were like, oh, you design tennis shoes. I'm like, no, I'm a storyteller and shoes are my canvas. Like,
we got the episode description now.
It was so corny, but I was like,
it's seasoned with pretentiousness, but it's real.
It's not wrong.
Well, it's my favorite thing about designing shoes is learning why things are the way they are. And like, I talked earlier to you guys about Dion at Concepts. Like, he to me is like the king of storytelling on a tennis shoe, and like, he makes the shoe so likable that I'm like, he has kids lining up who probably don't know anything about the story. Yeah. But if you find out later, you're like, oh shit, this shoe just got 100 times cooler. He's the king of that. And I've always followed him. And I'm friends with him, and I'm like, tell him all the time how fucking cool he is. But that's what my goal is, to like really tell a story. And like, I'll just stop right there. That was all I want to say. I love a background story, and I love like really taking art and storytelling and putting it on something that's wearable. I think it's a cool thing.
So I guess kind of transition going from the Nike SB Dunk Crawfish to the Cafe du Monde. You know, you talk about the Crawfish. Nike didn't really want to give you all the special packaging. There's a video, if you deep dive in Instagram, there's an old clip of like in the shop, store employees taking the Crawfish Dunks out of the teal box into this like assembly line.
Yeah, we did that till like 3 a.m.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's that. So speaking to that experience, and then, you know, maybe the ease you had with getting the Louisiana fish fry logo, what was it like going from that collaboration experience to Cafe du Monde? Was it day and night?
Well, it was a huge, there was a huge break in between those things, because like within there, I had I don't know how many years, but in my brain, it felt like a lifetime. And I'm like, I'll never do anything as cool as that again. Like, I'm like, that was my one shot, and I blew it. Like, I didn't become
there
famous.
It goes.
So yeah, but the Cafe du Monde was a product essentially of Derek's hard work from his past. Essentially, like I didn't start off with Derek. He started in 2006. I was just a little kid then.
Right.
But Derek has put in so much work and built so many relationships with brands that he was able to put me on the, I guess stage. I'll say stage. Like he was able to introduce me to that Cafe du Monde. So without him, I'm like, I would have never even known how to break that door.
Sure.
And people now always say like, oh, how does this work? Like, do you go to them? Do you go to them? And I'm like, well, that's what Derek's amazing at. Like, Derek's amazing at working those relationships and getting us in positions to succeed. And with that, he like I said, putting yourself in a position to receive certain blessings, like aligning myself with Derek. You know, now he's my best friend, but he's brought me to a level that like he's put me in a position. He's like, now you have to do it. Like I've got you here, but now you have to do to show out and perform. And so that's what I tried to do with the Cafe du Monde. So like I said, me and Lee, we worked together. We would get Cafe du Monde often. Like, I mean, you live in one of the coolest cities, and the city has so much to offer. And that was like part of the conversation. Like, we're like, what makes New Orleans cool? Like, what do we like to do every day? Like, you know, and you see the line outside of Cafe du Monde, and Lee's like, that looks like a shoe line, you know, like, and we're like, what?
Yeah.
So I think like we kind of played with the idea, and like I said, neither Lee or I myself are graphic designers. Like, we are self-taught, YouTube University. Everything we did is like, you know, we were just winging it, and a lot of YouTube tutorials. Yeah. And so Derek essentially got the conversation going with Saucony and Saucony, whatever. Somebody's gonna rip me in the comments for that. I was just about to ask, because
like, I've always said Saucony, but I guess
either way, I don't know. Somebody's gonna rip me either way.
You're gonna get that email on Monday.
Yeah, you got one punch right here. So essentially, Derek got that conversation going for us with his, you know, brand rep, whoever. They send over what we call a CAD. It's just a blank shoe, and they decided this is the shoe, the Shadow. We're gonna push this shoe. You know, you can do what you want on it, and then that's me and Lee take it from there. Start playing around with ideas, and we kind of finalized 2 designs and couldn't really figure it out. And then Derek came in and was like, let's just pitch the idea of doing a friends and family. And they were like, of course you can do it.
Yeah.
So
wait, just shoot the shot.
You're like us trying to book every interview. You're hyping yourself up and like, I think we can't really ask for this. And you ask, and it's like, yeah.
Well, luckily, I mean, I hope I don't say anything that gets me in trouble. Let's address the elephant in the room. The Saucony isn't the coolest brand you've ever heard of.
It's not the most hyped.
Yeah, no. And it's so, for them, I think it's like what the way stores like us operate is like we're giving product to make it cool in the market. Like they want us to make the product cool. And then once we make it cool and filter it out, they ship thousands of pairs to Foot Lockers and Finish Lines for your mall customers. So that's what this business is all about. And when you understand that, it's a lot easier to comprehend why we do the things we do.
Yeah.
Because I cannot tell you the number of times I've gotten bitched at about, why don't y'all make more?
Yeah. Well, and that's every time. A lot of people that don't understand is that like a lot of the quick strike, I guess you can call it for lack of a better term, a lot of the quick strike stuff is just a marketing advertising vehicle to sell general release that's in the mall. Yeah.
That's exactly it.
They don't make their bread and butter from, these hyped limited releases. They make it from a Saucony. I want a Saucony. I'll go to the mall and get a Saucony, whatever it is. Yeah.
Right. So we figured this out, and Derek was like, it could be a beignet, but if the Café du Monde could get behind it, like that would be even cooler.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I have made a PowerPoint before. So I put together this PowerPoint that is like, I got to find it and I'll show it to you. Man. It is so stupid, man. Like, I remember one of the things that was on the slides was like, a cafe table. Like I had like Googled these images, like cafe table napkins. And I was like trying to like pitch, like in my brain, like say, like put what's in my brain on paper. I was like, if we made this store look like Café du Monde,
like a concept store.
Yeah. I was like, we're going to have an awning and all these things. And but again, like the PowerPoint was shit, like absolute shit.
I want like cartwheel animation of the shoe coming in.
Yeah, I was like,
pinwheel in and out.
Really bad.
Did it include a picture of you in the beignet costume?
No, so I did that because I became the beignet boy, basically, like the model for
your curse to live with. Yeah.
I know, but honestly, I hope I die with that. So luckily, Saucony was able to make us a sample before we pitched to Café du Monde. So I just I made this little presentation on my iPad, just something really simple, quick, and Googled Café du Monde like office. I'm like, I don't know, do you just show up there? Because most of their employees are like Filipino, and I'm like, where's your boss? Like, take me to the leader. Yeah. And they're just like, they don't. I was like, I didn't think they had an office because I'm looking around. So when I Googled it, they did have an office, and I'm like, it's right there across the street, and you never know it's there. It's like tucked away. I was like, it's right there. I was like, maybe I'll just stop by. So I stopped by, and this lady that's like working, she was like, they do like sell like merchandise, and I was like, do you have like a boss like that I can talk to? I was like, whatever. And she's like, yeah, he's this guy. Here's his email, and I emailed him, and he would take forever to email me back. He's like very old school. His name is Bert. Well, come to find out, he's like the VP of operations, like some high up shit. Yeah. And I was like, I need to meet this guy. Yeah. So when he finally did agree to meet me, he was like, let's just go meet for beignets. And I'm thinking like, okay, I guess.
How many times does he send that email?
Yeah.
Let's just meet over beignets. It's like, I'm going to put money in your pocket to meet with you.
Yeah. I was like, I needed like a big screen for my presentation. I was like, dude, I'm wearing a suit. Yeah. I told Derek that, and we joke about it to this day. I was like, yo, I'm going to go pitch this idea. This is going to be the day. Like, if we get it, we get it. And I was like, Derek's like, okay, man, like be on your best behavior, like crush it. I was like, dude, I am. I'm going to wear a polo. And Derek's like, what? I'm like, I'm going to wear a polo. Yeah. And Derek's like, don't know what that means, but okay. And I was like, to me in my brain, I'm like, if I'm wearing a polo,
look, it's Denim Springs coming out. Okay, right now, polos mean business.
I'm like, I'm professional as shit right now.
I got polos in my nice jeans.
So I did. I wore a polo. Tucked it in even. I never do that. So I did that, and I showed him the PowerPoint, and he's like, do you want to eat? I'm like, dude, I'm trying to sell this thing. Like, he literally could not care. Like, he was like, whatever. Yeah. So he's doing this, and I showed him the PowerPoint. He's like, so like a shoe, like he was just kind of confused. Wasn't until I reached in my backpack and pulled out the sample and he saw the physical shoe. He's like, oh man, like he was like, his face lit up. He was like, you're gonna make this? And I'm like, this is one. Like this is
we have done it.
And I was like, basically, I just need your blessing to say that it's the actual Café du Monde.
Put your name
shoe.
on the tongue. Yeah.
So he was like, he's like, this is a no-brainer. He's like, do it. I was like, well, with that, pulled out all these like documents, legal contracts. I'm like, need you to sign all this.
You said yes.
Well, that's when he was like,
that verbal agreement will work for Louisiana fish fry, but I'm not trying to end up there again.
Well, so that's the connection between the two, right? So like, I've done this twice now, and both times is like the most like spontaneous way ever. And he was like, He didn't want to sign it. He was like, nah, just do it. I'm like, no, legally I can't.
I don't want to get a call from you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I can't not bring these.
Which would have been brilliant for him, right? If I would have been dumb enough to just run away and be like, all right, I'm doing it, and then he sue the shit out of me. How crazy would that be?
Man.
But he wound up signing everything, and he's the most amazing guy. He's so nice, and he's great. I still keep in touch with all of them, his whole family. They're a huge family, by the way. They have like a ton of kids and grandkids.
Oh, wow.
And all these things. And that was his only stipulation. Like, Derek, I'm not the best at business. Like the money side, I'm a creative 100%. I don't, numbers scare the shit out of me.
Yeah.
So Derek's like, okay, what do we got to pay these people? Like, how are we going to do this? And I'm like, this is you, boss. Like,
you tell me how much we
I'm
get.
Like, I don't know. Well, come to find out, all Bert wanted was shoes for his family. He's like, he's like, there's a lot of us. I'm like, like hundreds? He was like, there's like 15. I'm like, oh, like, yeah.
Yeah, I can make
I was like,
we can find 15
I was like, let me see, man.
Yeah. Let me see if
I might only be able to do 10.
But that's all they wanted, man. They were like, we don't care about this. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, wait. Cost you about 10 cents to make a beignet. You sell it for $4 and you have people lined up down the street 365 days out of the year.
They're printing money. They don't need a shit money.
So I'm like, all right. So so from there they signed off, and I was able to get their brand book. They didn't really have such thing, but basically all of their, we call it like a brand book, like colors, Pantones, all those things, and made some tweaks on the shoe, finalized everything with their official name. The shoe came out sick. The packaging actually was designed before the shoe.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to do a Café du Monde box way before this. And I remember being at my mom's house, printing a template, like just Googled shoebox template, like tweaked it, like made it, and then made a little tiny box, like, like when you're a kid. You're a kid and you do like origami type stuff. Like you have to fold this line, tape this one. Yeah. And I made it, and I like showed my mom. I'm like, see, this is what it's going to be like. And she's like, well, that's pretty neat. And like,
great job, buddy.
I left my job. Look, Mom. Look.
She's like, you're getting there.
You want me to tape it to the fridge? I can put it up there for you.
She was like, you're doing amazing,
She
sweetie.
turns around, wipes an eye, like, he won't stop this dream.
She was like, fall on your ass. Just kidding. My mom's supportive.
Yeah.
But so the box was the one, like, I kind of was like, at one point I remember, because we went through so many samples of that shoe, because Saucony doesn't really have, well, maybe they do, I don't know, but it was hard for us to like grasp this like idea of, I want the shoe to be just completely brown, and just imagine you sprinkle something all over it.
Oh, yeah.
And then I guess there's this like especially when you work through email, it's just hard to kind of get people on the same page, and like in your brain, you know exactly what it's supposed to look like, but I just could never get it exactly like that.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of got annoyed, because I'm like, I don't care anymore. I just want to do the box. Like, that's all I care about. So I just started doing the box, and the box came out amazing. I love the box so much. Luckily, I didn't have to build those boxes myself. Saucony did it. But so we have the shoe. We have the box now. We have a date that we want to release it. And then this is where like clothing really took off for me, because now that I think about it, I don't even remember how we got in touch with these guys out in LA, but they're two of our best friends now. They handle production. One of the guys is he jumps back and forth from here from LA and China frequently. He runs Russell Westbrook's brand now, Honor the Gift. His name is Edgar. He's amazing. He's brilliant on the computer. He's a pattern maker. He does everything. And then there's another guy who handles all of like the other side of production. And so those two guys really changed the game for us. Like we met them. We were in Vegas, I think. Had not slept yet, because life's good.
Vegas, baby.
And we meet them at this little bar at like 10 in the morning. Our flight's at 12. And they're like, we have something to show you. They show up at this bar with all of these samples that I had just drawn up.
Oh, wow.
And I guess a little bit going back behind that, I was working in the store, right? Every day. So like you have walk-in customers and stuff like that. And I'm like telling Derek, I'm like, I need to focus, man. Like I need an office. I need to focus. And at the time I was dating this guy who has a plane, and he can like fly it anywhere. Yeah. And he was like, hey, let's go on a vacation for like a month. And I was like, we're just going to fly. We're going to like camp all through like the Midwest and like the West Coast. I'm like, like a month? And he's like, yeah. So I was like, hey, Derek, I need off for 30 days. And Derek's like,
a little more than the 2 weeks.
Have you lost your fucking mind? And I was like, I know this sounds crazy, but I need this days. Like, I'm taking this trip. And Derek was like, dude, you're an idiot, but okay. So he did wind up letting me go. He was pissed. But while I was there, I just brought an iPad and I just drew everything out for this Cafe du Monde stuff. And I was able to like focus and like, I just, whatever. So when we came back, you know, I sent these designs to these guys in LA and they were mocking it all up. So fast forward, we go back to Vegas. They show up with all these samples. They were fucking sick. We were like, because we had never seen this before. It's all cut and sew. Everything. It wasn't like just buying a blank Hanes t-shirt and printing on it anymore.
No.
Yeah,
it's
it was
the
like
shorts. It's the windbreaker.
Creating like patterns like from samples that we had found like from our favorite pieces out of our closet. Just cool stuff like that. So we look at each other in Vegas. We're like, me and Derek, we're like, this is it. Like, we're here.
Yeah.
And it was sick. So we did that. Got that collection together. So now at this point, we have all of the clothing. We have the shoes, the box, everything. Bring in Dustin, who is our head photographer.
Yeah.
Probably the best photographer I think I've ever seen. Like, his work is incredible. Like, it's insane. Like, I will die by saying that Politics has the best photography video team in the game.
Well, and like, he definitely kicked off in-house sneaker photography.
Totally.
Like,
He's
way
the
back
one.
in MySpace. Yeah. He elevated what it meant for like your own brand to not use stock images from the company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, he has to know. He probably just loves us talking about him. But like, when you talk to him, he's so humble. He's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, you're like, amazing. Like, brands would kill for him. Like, he's sick. But he came down to New Orleans and like Adam was here. Pretty sure Stu was here with us too. Yeah. Their whole team basically came down. We rented a room in the West End. We're like all hanging out. We're like, it was raining, which made it even cooler because it was like this overcasty vibe. It was just sick. And we walked to Cafe du Monde and, you know, like I texted Bert. I'm like, yo, we're going to do the shoot today. Save me some tables. And like, we had the whole restaurant just staring at us like, the hell?
When Adam told the story, he said y'all didn't ask for permission. He said y'all just showed up and just kind of did it.
Well,
I guess maybe he didn't know you had talked to Bert, maybe.
Yeah, I did reach out to Bert, but to that point, and this isn't a dig at Bert, I love it. Bert is the most like laid back, don't give a shit person. Like, I don't think Bert ever came. Like, he never you know.
You said I need 4 tables. He's like, sure, grab 4 tables when you get there.
Exactly. Like, he's always the most laid back person ever. You know, like he showed up. The picture on my Instagram, which is probably like my favorite picture, is me giving Bert the shoes for the first time, and like the store is a wreck because we just got shipped hundreds of shoes and they're all just like
you see him in the background.
Yeah, and like Bert's like, I'm showing up to get the shoes now. I'm like, wait, like this isn't the release date. Like,
we'll have the build out and everything.
Yeah, I wanted him to see the whole thing, and he's like, he just shows up. I'm like,
whatever.
Like, I want the shoes.
What am I gonna do? Yeah, what am I gonna tell him? No,
I'm gonna leave here with the shoes now. Yeah.
So, so we shot that, and it just like, I mean, y'all seen the images, the video. It's just, they came out so good, and like, I'm only a small percentage of anything that we do, and I give most of our credit to our photography team because they just make everything look so much better than it really is. I'm like, y'all are good. So that was that project, and it was a success. Like, the day of was insane. Like, I'm sure y'all know, I didn't sleep for like 3 days before that. I was so nervous.
Yeah,
I don't doubt it.
I hand painted the invitation for those things.
Really?
Going back to my grandma, like,
wow,
she loves New Orleans. Like, she lived, I think she was living in Germany, but she's very big into like European culture. Like, she loves it, and I've always appreciated European. Like, she's big into France. Like, she loves France so much. It's her favorite place, and so Cafe du Monde kind of has, New Orleans in general kind of has that vibe.
Course,
and so I painted the we were gonna, in our brain, we thought this was gonna work, where you kind of like had a number, so people cut lines. And, you know, the problem with sneaker releases is like, you have this cool build out, and I remember y'all mentioned it on your podcast earlier, but you do all this work for the build out and you want people to experience it, but at the same time, you want people to get their shoe and get out so people aren't in a line all day.
Looking back on it, I think we realized that's the catch-22 of it. Because, like, I think probably worst time to do an episode on a sneaker release is the day afterwards of standing 6 hours in the sun.
Not great. Not great.
I know we had our gripes about it, but like, you can look back on it and be like, well, I think we said it. It was like, yeah, as soon as you got in there, you didn't want to leave in there. So like, I can't fault anyone else for not wanting to.
And like, like that day was so stressful for me too. Like, luckily now we hired a guy after that to do events and stuff like that. Okay. He's really good at stuff like that. And But like, I remember just feeling so stressed that day because everybody was so happy that they didn't really care anymore about like the details. But I'm like, no, we still have to work. Like,
oh yeah.
And like, I heard y'all's gripe about the people letting people in, and I was griping about it too because I'm like, guys, stop letting your girlfriends in. Like, the store is like literally so crowded. Like, it was just a mess, and I looked like the crazy person running around like trying to be mean to everybody.
Right. Yeah.
There was this one guy, man, and he used to be like our homie for real. Like, he was always coming in. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even going to say his name, but he was always coming in, and he was a really good friend of ours. But he kind of tried to pull like the friend card the day of, which really upset me because I'm like, man, like if you're really our friend, like you wouldn't have done this to us. You wouldn't have put us in this position.
We wouldn't have done this. We would have talked.
And he kind of got snuck away with some shoes and got them. And I'm like, whatever. Mm-hmm. But instead of stopping there, he got greedy and then brought like another person in to get him. And I saw it, the whole thing unfold. And I was like, no, I can't let this happen. And so like, I just like flipped out on him in the middle of the store, in the middle of the release day, which, you know, I hated that I had a temper, but it was like so stressful because I'm like, man, if you really loved us as a company, you say you're our friend, make our life easier by helping us, you know, like this kind of stuff. But he doesn't come around anymore, which really is sad because I don't, I'm not mad at you. But it was a stressful day. It was like, and I can imagine for customers like who waited in that line, like the night before, all of the politics team went out for dinner, like as a celebratory, like tomorrow's a big day. Yeah. And we were leaving the store the night before, closing up, and there's like 6 people as we're closing in line. And I'm like,
I know people started lining up that night.
It was insane.
Yeah, it was wild.
So, so I got to the store so early that day to like, you know, I was printing those cards. So they were all hand painted. Well, there was an original hand painted card that I scanned, and they were all hand numbered. And so that way, that was your way of like trying to like not let people cut you, because like if it wasn't 1, 2, 3, 4,
exactly,
you
something happened.
Cut.
Me being very much a like packaging collector and like I'm a completionist, I want to have everything. We got there. I mean, we pulled up at like 6 or 7. I think we pulled up a little bit later in the morning because it's like, I really want this.
It's funny that
like,
you say that's late.
Exactly. But it's like I like sleeping. So after the fact, I found out that like there were those not gift cards. There were those postcards that were handed out early in line. Me being a completionist, I'm trying to track down anyone that had one. But then, I guess that was when I found out that was what y'all's way. You passed them out, but you took them back from people when they got inside to like verify their number and everything.
I think so. Yeah.
If not, if anyone out there listening has one, I'm right here. So just hit us up. Yeah.
Okay. We'll pay somewhat of a decent price
not
for a piece of paper.
Not top dollar, but up dollar. You know?
I gave my grandma the original painted one for her birthday. She cried. I have the picture of it, and I was like, man, this is my favorite picture of me and my grandma.
Yeah. It's a sweet memory.
Yeah. My mom had it framed for her and stuff like that. It was really great. But that day was really stressful, and it was eye-opening for the whole company because we realized like, people really like us. Like we can really
turns out.
I remember walking down the block, and then it turns
around the corner. And
then I was like, oh shit, people are down this far. And then it turns again.
Yep.
So I was like,
we were around
2
that second
city
corner.
blocks. I was like, what? It was insane. And that's not even like people were in a single file line.
No,
that's like
it was
groups of people.
Yeah.
And we opened at, I think 11 that day. I think we did normal time. Maybe we opened early that day. But anyway, it was funny. The last shoe we sold at 7:00, like right when we ended. Like it was right there at the end. Yeah. And it wasn't the guy's size, but he was just like, he waited all day.
Yeah, you got to get something at that point.
But the best feeling of that whole project was when we locked the door. I was like,
my favorite part of releasing the shoe was when we were done releasing the shoe.
Dude, it was the most stressful day. It was so much going on, and like I had a blast. I had all the employees wear Café du Monde uniforms. Like that was my favorite part.
I saw everyone in the outfits and everything.
Yeah, I loved that part because I'm like, y'all, we're gonna sell this. Like we're gonna.
When
really
y'all passed out beignets, y'all passed out water. So it's like, to y'all's credit, I think you did a really good job of like managing that release to the best that it could. Of course, it sounds like y'all didn't anticipate the hype that it was, which like hindsight, that's a great thing to have that many people excited about it. But
could you imagine if we did more shoes? That would be, I don't know, that'd be crazy. But we definitely tried to make it because like, despite the comments that you see on our page sometimes that we're just awful people, we actually do care about our customers and our community. So we try our best.
Whenever I don't get
whenever I don't get it.
Whenever I don't hit on a very hype shoe with a limited raffle, I'm upset.
We posted something last night. This is a little off topic, but we posted something last night. We're gonna work with the AAPI, which is the Americans, Islanders, or I forget the thing.
Asian Americans, Islanders.
Yeah. So this Sunday, we're going to give away all of our proceeds are going to go from there, from in-store and online, which is amazing. And that makes me so happy to work for a company like this that takes that seriously and all those things. we got a comment last night that we were too corporate because we're doing that, and that we need to stop being lame.
Sellouts.
And so Derek comments back last night, pull up and I'll show you how corporate I am. I was like yes. Like, get them. Get the trolls.
We're going to leave that comment. We're going to pin that to the top real quick.
Well, I'm an emotional person. So like whenever I work really hard for 2 years for the Cafe du Monde project, and like people just absolutely destroyed me in the comments of like the design and like, you know, this, I'm like, it like hurt my feelings a lot. Like I would like have to stop reading comments. I'm like, but granted, there's also 1,000 more comments that people love it.
It's hard.
Yeah,
but it's like that one comment does get me, you know, I'm always like,
intense,
shit, like, but you know, I've kind of gotten out of that. That was like the first time I really put a project out there that like was like the world saw. Or the world, that's dramatic. The country saw.
I think the world saw it. I mean, whenever we share anything that has to do with it, there's a very specific, shout out if you're listening, there's like a Team Saucony Russia page that always likes whatever we do. So Team Saucony Russia. Exactly. Yeah. If you ever need to find inspiration for your next one, maybe I'll just take a trip over there.
Okay. All right. Red light district.
Little idea for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember my friend was in Baton Rouge and he like sent me the news clip. He was like, you know, you're on the news here. I was like, I didn't even do a news interview with them. I was like, that's weird. But yeah, so I definitely did feel a little vulnerable because I'm like, oh man, people are really about to judge me like for what I'm doing, you know? But for the most part, I think it was, people liked it and it came out great. But it was a fun project. It was like, again, it was a huge learning opportunity.
Yeah.
And like now I always resort back to that project and like, okay, what would I do differently for this project? Like we have up and coming projects now, and I'm thinking to myself, how would I spin this story? Would I do this differently? Like would I, you know, so it's all a learning experience, man. Like I'm excited about it.
Listen, you put it out there, so we're going to go ahead and chase this rabbit down the hole.
Yeah.
So we know that Derek said there's an upcoming collaboration coming out on Veterans Day.
What
else do you want to tell us?
I'm trying to think of what he said, so that way I don't say more than he said.
I will play your friend right here. I'm pretty sure the only thing he said was Veterans Day is the release. I don't think he said
brand or anything.
I don't think he said brand or anything. So
I was going to say legally.
I mean, if you want to say what brand it is,
we will only use this clip.
So
this is what we're leading with.
So there's another guy that works in Lafayette, and he designs too. He's younger than me. I think he might have just graduated, so he kind of has to balance school and this. So he's not fully full-time in designing, but he came up with this idea to do a veterans project because Derek is a veteran,
right? Of course,
and he sent me the original like mock-up of it, and it's such a great concept. It was so cool. I was like, dude, say less. Like, this is sick. And we...
we'll sit here in silence for 5 minutes if you find the right words to say.
Tightens the grip a little more.
I'm like, I just won't say it. But the brand it's an amazing brand. We're really excited. So they sent us like the CADs for the shoe, and we were able to mock it up. Ezra and I worked on the kind of like finalizing it because Ezra's original concept was it wasn't able to do it. Like there's just certain things that they couldn't do, not legally or anything, but it's just like physically the shoe cannot be done like this.
The whole shoe can't be Derek's face.
Right.
You know, we wanted to.
Yeah, we all want
we led
that.
with that. But.
And we want it to when you squeeze the tongue, it's just like it's Derek's laugh, like his gut laugh.
That's what I'm talking about.
So, but yeah, so the shoe, I think we finalized it a month ago maybe, and we got first sample back, and we made some few minor changes, which was an amazing feeling for them to like send the shoe back and it almost be perfect.
How often does that happen in your experience with sampling?
I don't know, because I've only done the Dunk. I never got to see a sample.
Okay.
Hunter did that.
I know they have one in the store in a glass case. I think
what
I can tell, it looks identical.
Though, right? It's not the sample though. I think it's just one of the shoes.
I don't know how different the sample, but I know that they have one in there with a sample tag on it.
Oh, okay.
And
then never mind.
It looks pretty identical to that. There might be some minor touches that I haven't caught, but
so I don't know. That's too long ago for me to remember that. But the Cafe du Monde, in the back right now, I probably have 12 shoes. Like
cut.
Some are
Go ahead, cut.
Some are different, but like there's just lefts or just rights or they could be really small changes or whatever. But I have a ton and I don't want to get rid of them because one day I just feel like that'll be cool to have them all.
Of course.
Oh,
but
I've got to ask, don't they normally sample in size 9? And what size are you?
9.
So that's not a bad position to be in.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this shoe, the veterans one that we're working on is it was nearly perfect, and we were like sick. They only sent us a left, which I was like. Sneaky.
It's the right on the way.
Yeah. So we have another one coming.
Ooh, minor changes, but make sure it's the right.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Be like, for some reason, we want to see what the right looks like this time.
But mentally.
Yeah. So we did that, and then I actually approved the box like 2 days ago. Yeah. And so now what is keeping me busy is the clothing collection for that.
Okay. So that'll go with it.
Yeah. So that'll release this year, November, which will be sick. We haven't even opened the floor for conversation about how we're going to release it, what we're going to do for it. But obviously, hopefully, things are different by then, vaccine wise and like stuff. Cause we don't want to miss that opportunity to have another event. Cause that's what we really love doing is events. So hopefully that goes great.
Yeah.
He said another project that we had too, but I can't remember what it was. Do you remember?
I just remember him saying one on Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about everything that's coming up and we'll just figure out which one it is.
Well, I did find out. So if you follow me or Derek on Instagram, Fletcher, any of those guys, y'all probably have seen that we are professional snowboarders now. We're obsessed. Like,
see that,
hooked. So we have one more trip. We leave tomorrow, us 3, and we're going to Aspen, and I'm like, we're going to Aspen. We'll get some snowboarding in and stuff. I was like, he says, well, bring your laptop because I have some news for you. I was like, oh, like, cool. What is it? And he's like, I'm just too excited. I can't tell you.
Like, I still work here news or?
I'm like, oh man. He's like, turn in your badge. Yeah. We don't have badges. But he was like, I have some big news. I'm like, okay. And he's like, we got another shoe collab. I'm like, oh, sick. And it is probably going to be the biggest shoe collab I've ever done. Like, it's huge. Yeah.
Seriously.
So there's no date. There's no anything like that. But when we were in Portland snowboarding, we went with and they basically were like, y'all are crushing it. We love you guys. And we're like, we're gonna make it happen. So we have some big stuff.
I heard a name there.
Yeah. Oh man. So that'll be huge and that'll be great. But so that's shoe wise. People always say like, we want you to make this shoe, or people always have an idea. When the Popeye's chicken sandwich was huge, you do not know how many emails I got about making a Popeye's chicken sandwich shoe. I'm like, the Café du Monde was a food shoe for sure, but it was an ode to like one of the most iconic cafes in the world. Yeah. I don't make food shoes. I was like, what?
It's hard to explain when you have a Crawfish shoe and a Beignet shoe, because then people are looking like,
you're kind of a food shoe guy.
Yeah,
I know, but like,
but that's not.
People give me ideas all the time, and it's very, very hard for me to keep straight face. Like I am like, sometimes I'm like, they're like, I like crystal and everything. You should do a crystal hot sauce shoe.
Yeah. Well,
what?
Look, KFC made a computer. You could make a chicken sandwich.
Yeah, I'm like, y'all know we do have to make money, right? Like, that's the whole end goal of this. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny some of the stuff I get.
That's a great segue into why we brought you here today. Tanner, do you have the PowerPoint?
Nope. No.
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
Okay.
No.
So that was where were we? We were on,
that's a good talking point then. So you've done, a handful of collaborations now. Nike, Jordan, which I understand those two, even though they're under the same household, the brands work very differently. Maybe you can attest
the Jordan,
to that.
the Katrina 3.
But just like how do the businesses operate? Like they don't operate. It's not like you get one thing with Nike, you get the same thing with Jordan. They operate like separate.
Oh yeah, Nike and Jordan are for sure separate.
With that,
companies.
the Adidas and the Saucony, what's the collaboration process look like, or is it different every time based on the company you're working with? Like, how often do you, like people say you should do this shoe. How often do you guys actually get to pick the silhouette it's going to be? How often do you get to control the size run? How many are going to get made,
It does vary, because the transparent answer to that is that companies already know what they're going to sell for the next 10 years, probably. Maybe not that long, 5. Yeah. So for them, they know that, like, and if you open up if you kind of pay attention to the market, you'll see, wait, why are they pushing these 95s? So many 95s are coming out all of a sudden. That's because Nike said that this year is going to be the 95, exactly. The year of the 95, They
spent last year doing artificial scarcity for the Dunk, so this year they can release general release colorways that normally would have just sat on shelves, but now it's like, I like Dunk.
Well, I just had this conversation yesterday with a guy that works here. He just got within we got to politics. He came from a totally different industry, and he started working here. And he just likes shoes, and he was like he was kind of frustrated because yesterday we had so many people come in. They're like, "Tell me y'all got the dunks," and we're like, "Clearly we don't have the dunks. Like they're not going to sit on the shelf, man. If you weren't here for a release day or win them in the raffle, like they're not just to be sitting here, you know."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Man, I hate it. Like nobody used to wear dunks and this and that." I'm like, instead of getting frustrated, look at it from this way. This is all part of the plan. Like this is marketing genius. This is how it operates, and you can be prepared for this.
Right. You want to find out what the next thing is. Pay attention to what's happening right now. That's
exactly
either really scarce to get. Yeah.
Like you thought Travis Scott skateboarded. Like, oh my God, no. Like he just skyrocketed dunks everywhere. Like, dude, come on. And even before that, you know, like you said, they were taking them off shelves, like pulling them, like making them scarce. So, so to the point is, a lot of times brands will more than likely say, this is the shoe we're going to push. And because even after the Cafe du Monde was so successful, Saucony was like, what do you want to do? Like,
once you kind of prove yourself, it's like you guys can obviously take
it comes to that, to an extent. But then there was also conversations like they were introducing a new model, and they were like, we would love to introduce the new model with you. That way you kind of make it cool and like all these things, which is really fun to do.
Is that kind of the story, not to derail you, is that kind of the story of the community, the Forum Low? Because we say this all the time. I mean, from my perspective, the Forum Low wasn't really back in the market from the 80s until you guys kind of led the wave of bringing it back. And they've been introducing it with collabs, limited collabs. I mean, you look at Bad Bunny just did one as well. So that's kind of from the outsider perspective, what we notice with the community Forum Low is that it seemed like you guys really led the wave in the resurgence of the Forum Low.
Yeah, so there was a team within Adidas that was brought together specifically for the forum, and they flew us out to the Portland campus. Us, Bodega Concepts, Amamaniere, a couple of different boutiques around the country that we're all friends with. We all know each other, and they introduced this project called the Forum. And they were like, we're going to resurge this 80s forum back into the market, but we're going to use you guys as like the way to like introduce it. Like you're going to do this, you're going to be able to collab on it and all these things. We're like, okay. We're like, let me see the shoe. And because I wasn't born in the 80s. I'm like,
and if I was, I wasn't wearing forums in the 80s. Yeah.
I was like, man, this is going to to be tough. Like this shoe is not cool. And, then they were like,
sorry, my brain just caught up to how you just said that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then they were like, they're like, this is also your template that you can use. It was like a very limited color scheme that I could work within. And I'm like, oh, so it's not like you're just literally like just giving us a blank model.
Yeah. And
that kind of was like, we were like, okay, so how do we make this cool? Because like, it's going to be hard to sell this because, so the forum was about community. That was their narrative. Like it was bringing people together on the playground. Like that was like within your community. So we took that idea and we ran with it. And we're like, we really do have to sell this to consumers. Like it's not enough for Adidas to tell us about it. Like, because that's what happens sometimes. And we just kind of run with that. We need to literally take Adidas's words and bring that to the consumer so they understand what this is.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. So we tried to make it as much as community as we could. We did the partnering with restaurants, which we thought was a good idea for pandemics, for the pandemic, like since restaurants especially were hurting.
Yeah.
So we partnered with them to do those giveaways, which was really great. And so the marketing definitely worked because towards the end of the project, I was like, well, this shoe's kind of cool.
It worked on yourself.
I'm like, well,
it had that reverse
and
effect.
I wear it all the time. Like it's such an
it.
easy shoe to like throw on. It's a great.
The materials on it are so like premium.
Yes, and a guy was wearing one yesterday at the store, a high top, but it wasn't ours, and it was just so cool. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, it's funny that I noticed them now. Like they're, and like you said, to that point, like they introduced a model, very limited. What did we do? 200, 500 pairs.
Yeah,
500 pairs that we mostly gave away to people. And then now you'll see collabs from Bad Bunny and like all these new collabs coming.
Park, different boutiques around the country have been doing them.
So that's kind of how the business works. They introduce a model through us and we make it cool and then they push it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Let me ask the tinfoil hat question right here.
Yeah.
How much flack did you get for posting samples of the community forum
like
lows?
A lot of trouble. Yeah. I forgot.
Internally or from Adidas?
No, Derek doesn't really ever get mad.
Okay.
I was in LA without him though, and I think that's why I did it. I didn't do it because I knew it was wrong, but like he wasn't with me, and I don't know. I was just like, I was there by myself, and I was like, let me just post this picture. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And like also being in those brands' campuses, like Adidas campus, Nike campus, like it's surreal. Like as a kid, I would die to work at Nike.
Yeah.
I would never work for. I don't want to say never work for Nike, but
Yeah.
I understand more now that it's not like I'm really happy at politics.
Yeah.
And so being in those campuses, it's kind of like a surreal feeling for me. I'm like, what I've always wanted to do. So yeah, I got a little excited and posted that picture, and it stayed up for a couple hours, and I got on I did it on my last day, and then I got on the plane with no service, and I get off the plane and I see all these brands reposting it. Like I didn't even think it in my brain. I didn't think about that at all. I'm thinking about people who follow me who are my friends. Like my friends back home, they'll be like, oh cool, you were gonna shoot. No. Sneaker news like posted. I'm like, oh shit. And Derek's like, dude, what? Take this down.
The only reason I ask is like why I got that tinfoil conspiracy is that I saw when all the brands were resharing it, you would quickly see Sneaker Politics comment, this is the sample, not final version, still working on the details.
Exactly. And that's because Derek, like I said, Derek wasn't with me, and I'm on a plane, so he can't reach me.
Right.
So he's like, Blaine, you can't share this kind of stuff. And I was like, in my brain, I'm like, why? Like, I was like,
working on it.
I was like, we're supposed to be building hype. I was like, look what I just did.
I was just about to say, to be fair, like, it's, maybe a little controversial for some, but like, damn, if that didn't build the hype for it. Know?
So, I guess I said earlier, I was like, I don't believe in luck, but here I am. That was lucky. That was lucky. But so I did have to delete it because like the people that team that I was talking about, they emailed me quick and were like, take this shit down right now.
Yeah.
And so, so that was the forum.
I guess the only shoe then that we kind of leapfrogged over was the Katrina 3s, which I didn't realize till we got here and we started kind of chopping it up that there's a really interesting story to them that like they're now iconic for.
I do love that story too, so I'm super happy to talk about that. But that was Jordan's Wing Foundation, which is like their give back portion of the brand. They had this idea to like give scholarships out to these kids, and it was I'm pretty sure Frank Cooker was still at Jordan at this point, and if you don't know who Frank Cooker is, do your homework.
He's designed so many Jordans that you love and wear.
He is the god of this shit. Yeah, he is the ultimate god. And so that was another surreal moment for me, being able to have his email like work with him. Like he was my contact at Jordan at that time. So basically, they designed the shoe, however many years ago that was, to raffle off the Katrina 3 to raise money, and it was only like one pair. I think it wasn't. They weren't for sale.
Okay.
It was just to raise money, and they donated it to New Orleans. And so fast forward to like a couple years later, they were like, we're going to re-release the Katrina 3 in the same colorway. So it's not like we designed it. It was already designed.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they're like, but we want to use you guys to like build the hype for it and like present it. And then we want to do this. We want to give money back to the community and all these things. And that's where we, again, took what we know best, which is partying, to the next level. And we're like, we're going to have a block party.
Yeah.
And we're going to build this stage out, and we are going to, that was probably the worst part of my career in politics as far as like hardest, getting New Orleans to work with me on shutting the block
to shut down a block. Yeah.
Neighbors hate me to this day.
Yeah.
They hated it. But there was a kid who like applied at like 100 different schools and got into like 100 different schools from New Orleans, and they were able to give him a full ride to whatever school he chose.
Wow.
And like there was 10 other kids that got, I don't know if it was a full ride, but they got some kind of crazy amount of money to go to school. So that day was insane. It was wild. And again, almost 2 blocks that we had it wrapped around, and we designed a little bit of merch around it through Jordan. Like that wasn't cut and sew for us. That was all Jordan blanks, but they were basically saying like, okay, it's going to be called the Katrina 3, like, this, but like, how can you like make it your own kind of thing? And so just like, I didn't live here for Katrina, but I was pretty young. I think I was in like 6th or 7th grade. And like, I always remember in my brain seeing the aftermath of Katrina and seeing the X on the houses. Like it just stood out to me. I don't know why. Maybe there was like the coloring, because it was always a bright color.
Yeah.
And so I just did my homework on that, and I was like, this is super interesting. Like if you've ever read about why they do it, each quadrant stands for a different thing. And so whatever's in that quadrant of the X means, it's a way to communicate with people. Because obviously phones probably weren't,
Right. Yeah.
So we used that for the back of the t-shirt. And I think for the most part it was successful, but I definitely remember people feeling a certain type of way. Us not being from here.
I get it.
I'm not from here. I'm also white, and it kind of doesn't, I don't think it sat well with certain people because of that. And I kind of look back now and think maybe that was a little insensitive of the people that lived through Katrina.
Right,
because
to them, that has a very personal traumatic connotation to it.
Yeah.
I get that.
And I'm not going to say that I regret the design by any means, but it definitely was a wake up call as far as like design matters, and like your words matter, and how you talk about things matter, and people have feelings, and it's very important to hold those feelings. You need to respect those people's feelings. And we did the design, and that morning of the release, Frank was here all weekend, and we just hung out with him all weekend, and he loves the city so much. And when we were the morning of, he kind of asked me about the design of the t-shirt, and I was explaining to him how the X works. He's like, "Oh, that's sick." I'm like, "Yeah." And I wanted to do this in my brain. I don't know why. We had designed some hang tags, and then I thought a neon shoelace would be cool because of the neon paint.
Those.
Yeah. So we put all that in the box for everybody. And then I happened to have spray paint from these. The marketing we did for that was I spray painted these papers. I made the logo, that X logo on papers, and had some local guys that they skate and bike around here go plaster them all over the city.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So kind of like a little guerrilla New York style marketing. Yeah. And so I still had that paint. So I was like, fuck these shoes. Like, as far as, I didn't mean it like that, but like, I meant like, I'm going to beat these things up.
Yeah. I'm
so
going
I
to wear
just
them
sprayed
anyways.
an X on the back of my shoe real quick. I was like, shh. And Frank was like, "Oh, do mine." And like, I hit Frank's shoes outside in front of the line because we were just outside hanging out. And when the street, like the people in the street saw that, they were like, "Oh, I need that."
Yeah.
So I spent the entire release with a can of spray paint outside, just and like some people were like, some people felt bad. Some people didn't want to do it because they were like, they're old school Jordan heads. They're like, your shoes got to be clean. Like that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I get that.
But then we had people the next day come back to the store like, "Wait, I didn't get my shoes sprayed." I'm like, just do it yourself. And they were just like, "No, I need Blaine to do it."
I need
I'm
Blaine's touch.
I'm like, all right. So
how can I resell these if I don't say,
yeah, right,
Blaine sprayed them?
So that was a really cool like moment because it was just so organic and like kind of pure, and like I don't know, I just love stuff like that. I think it's really cool. So yeah, that was a great day. That was a really fun release. Being on stage while Juvenile performs "Back That Ass Up." If you've never done that, you never lived.
What's it like to have peaked in life, I guess, at that point?
Yeah,
I mean,
honestly.
hey, what a way to peak.
Yeah.
And Juvenile's like cool with Derek. Like him and Derek go way back. And like when I first started working here, he would come in all the time, and I would be like, "Act cool, act cool." But he's a legend. Like he's like every wedding you've ever been to, if they don't play "Back That Ass Up," like
exactly,
bad wedding.
It was a lame wedding, and you should have left early.
One time I was like, "Yo, Derek wants me to get a picture with you to post," because he like had like a bunch of bags.
Derek wants you to have your arm around me?
And then when you reposted, if you could call me your friend.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Derek.
I'm like, whatever.
I don't know how this
whatever you want.
Yeah.
Hot boys, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Certain people, if I meet certain people, man, I do get a little nervous.
Well, it's hard not to.
But then also, like, one of these when we were in Vegas, like, I first really started going to Vegas with Derek for shows. One of these guys who was like Pusha T's homie was like, "Y'all want to go to the section?" And Derek's like, "Of course, like," and Derek's the most laid back. Derek's cool with everybody. He doesn't care. But Derek's like, "We're going to go to this Pusha T show. We're going to be with Pusha." I'm like, and I love Pusha T too.
Yeah.
So I was like, yes. Fast forward, Pusha T's performing. We're like behind him in the section, and I'm trashed, running around like on the couches, like whatever. And the dude that got us in the section, his girlfriend was she had this like Birkin, and it was on the sofa, and I kept running over it, like just all over it, and she got obviously upset. And she told her boyfriend at the time, who like was in charge of the section and everything, she's like, "He gotta go." And so she kicked me out, and Derek was like, "Yeah, well, if he's leaving, I'm leaving too. Like, we don't care about this shit." And like, ever since then, I was like, man, he really loves me.
You know, Derek is your boy, where he's
ride or die.
Because Derek's like
section.
Yeah, he doesn't care. Derek's like,
you can keep guys like, all right, well, I guess if he can't say, I'm out.
So we dipped, and him and Tim, like, we dipped, and we like went and kept drinking in Vegas, and like had a great time. I was like, we don't need to see Pusha T.
We don't need Pusha T.
He's cooler than Pusha T.
Yeah.
What a power move right there.
I like that.
We always tell that story jokingly now because Derek's like, "Dude, Blaine is wild."
That's so funny. I guess going over every sneaker, then maybe the most recent kind of feather in your cap then is the Be Nice collection, which I know for a while now you've been leading a lot of politics initiative to do in-house branding, cut and sew merchandising. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the first collection that you guys put out that has your name really associated and tied to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like a year ago or probably 2 years ago, I pitched the idea of Be Nice to Derek because I like designing for politics, but I definitely keep in mind what is going to sell for Derek and his customer. And I still have a passion for certain things. And like my style is different than a lot of things. There's a lot of things I make for politics that I don't wear or I would never wear. It's just not me. So I've always wanted to have this brand still. And I pitched it to Derek and he was like, I don't really know. It's not a great concept. And I was like, I wanted him to buy the brand from me and sell it in the store. I'm like, you don't know it's me or whatever. But he didn't really love it at first. It was thrown together. It was not my best presentation. But, fast forward, I've gotten better at these things. I've kind of honed in on the craft a little bit more. And I revisited the idea and he was like, yeah, let's give it a go. And it's done really, really well. I think associating my name with it actually helped it because people, it was more of a personal thing.
It humanized it a little bit. It's kind of like, I look at that a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of how you look at like the Always on Tour stuff. It's not just like one little run that politics did. It's an actual collection. It's a capsule. Right. And then having your name tied to it as well. Yeah.
So me and Derek we were just talking about it the other day. So I think the first collection did great. So collection 2 is already done. It's just, it needs to move into production. So I'm going to keep doing it for a little while, or at least till people get sick of it. My mom loves it. That's all that matters to me.
Exactly. Yeah. You got the inspiration behind it. Yeah. Who else do you do it for?
So, I mean, I want to get out of, focus my attention to our brand for sure. Like clothing. I love this cut and sew thing. Me and Derek had went to China together with our pattern maker, and that was our first taste of like what we could actually do. Like going to fabric market was insane. It was just like I can't even begin to describe how big it is and how anything you ever could picture in your brain that you've seen, Off-White, everything, like every brand that you recognize, you can find that material there. Like it's there. We ran into the guys from Pleasures there too. Like we knew they were in China, and it's just kind of interesting to see that everything kind of is full circle.
It's a smaller world than
think. So that was our first trip, and we were like, we took it serious from then on. But then COVID happened, so we tried to keep things moving in COVID during COVID, and which we have for the most part. The next collection is called Smoke and Mirrors, and it's going to be like politics, and that'll release probably next month.
Okay. And that'll be by the time this episode comes out, it'll be out already.
Yeah, should be, hopefully. With production, like you never know nowadays. Shipping is crazy, but so I'm gonna like hopefully in the future, like that's what you get from politics is more cut and sew, like more of a real brand identity. So
and I think that's probably my favorite thing that politics has been doing is, I mean, like we've seen it with Cafe Du Monde and Community, is that y'all will do a shoe, knock it out of the park, great storytelling, but you'll have a whole collection that is almost tied to the shoe as well, which just makes the whole event just super great. And then it allows everybody, like, hey, not everyone's going to get a shoe, probably get a t-shirt, a hat, a jacket, things like that. So being able to make like a collection and just push forward with that just adds another thing as to why I think politics is one of the bigger brands out there, because I believe it feels like politics is like, hey, there's more to sneakers within the sneaker community, and like how you're saying with fashion and things like that, like politics also understanding that if you like sneakers, you are also probably somewhat heavy into fashion as well, and just being like, why not just provide all of those outlets and all in shop, and just being able to control every aspect of it to when you do release a product, it is perfect.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we carry so many other brands as well. So I'm able to see what other brands are doing when their stuff comes in. And a lot of times I'm like, we can do something better than this. Like, so it's like, why let them take all that
retail space?
Yeah, that retail space and I think that's kind of when we started moving into this where we are now, is because we were selling out shirts, which granted we weren't doing the quantities that some other brands are doing. But it's like, if we can sell 15 of our own shirts versus 10 shirts of BBC or Rocket or whatever it is, like, why would we, people want our shirts, especially in New Orleans. It's a touristy city. So people are like, yo, I need to say I got a shirt from politics.
We're going to end it on a quick little bit here. Quick Q&A, lightning round. Short little questions, a little bit funner, a little bit more lighthearted. I've got some in mind. Do you have some, or you want me to?
I may spitfire some in there.
Okay, all right.
But you go ahead.
First question for you here: what's more exhausting, 7 a.m. spin class or answering politics emails from people complaining?
Luckily for me, I don't have to do emails. That is the one thing I'm terrible at. So it has to be 7 a.m. spin class.
Okay.
Lee does emails, and
okay,
he has a special spot in heaven, literally waiting for him.
I saw you because the other day, people complaining. Literally, we talked about why would you intentionally limit the Be Nice collection.
Lee will send us the good ones. Like,
okay,
if it's good, he sends it to him. Yeah. Okay. Derek does a lot too, but I think Derek got to the point where he's like, I'm gonna blow these kids out. So Lee is really good because he's very patient. Yeah, I don't know how he does it. Like, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Y'all could do a whole segment on him just doing emails and the things he gets. Like, it is a
2-part episode. Yeah. All right.
Next question.
Who from the politics team is most likely to go pro snowboarder?
Fletcher.
Fletcher, really? Okay.
He's a beast.
Yeah. I guess it's always for y'all in winter. I laugh because, like, of course we follow all of y'all on Instagram. It seems like almost every week y'all are up snowboarding somewhere.
Yeah. Well, Fletcher definitely looks the best, so he's the most marketable. Like, he's the only person I know that, like, you can find him on the mountain because he has a 7-foot off-white belt dangling from his snowboard, his baked snowboard pants.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, Fletcher for sure can go pro for sure.
Okay.
He's a beast.
Who's the worst dressed?
The worst dressed?
An attack question.
Yeah. Oh, that is a good one. Oh man, the guys are gonna hate me. I won't say one name, but I will say that the New Orleans staff is probably the most underdressed. When I come in and see socks and sandals, I cringe to my core. Like, I'm like,
for a sneaker
you wear
store.
Yeezys when you're going to let the dog out. Like, Yeezy sandals when you're letting the dog out. Do not wear that shit at work.
All right, there we go.
I won't say one name in particular, but I see it in my brain.
But they know.
Fired up.
Yeah, they'll know who they are. That's all they need.
Baton Rouge is the freshest store for sure. Adam and them like compete out there.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do y'all get paid? Like, goddamn.
Can I get on your payroll?
Yeah, I'm about to go move stores.
We talked about bringing back the flex off.
Oh, yeah. We used to do that. Every Friday, we would send in the group chat. You had to nominate a person from your store, and you had to send the fit pic. But we kind of stopped doing that. Yeah, now we're doing dance videos, which is really stupid.
I have not seen those.
But no, they won't be posted on there.
Just in the group chat.
Like, we challenge each other in the group chat, like, who can do the best dance. Like, it's Adam's definitely up there.
Adam's got some moves.
But Jay from New Orleans, he is really, really funny. Like, he's a character, and so he's funny too. So we always nominate him.
That's funny.
You don't want to nominate me for that.
Best item on the menu at Turkey and the Wolf?
The chicken pot pie.
Oh, hands down.
Mason's my neighbor also, by the way, for reference. So that's why him and I go back. You know, he loves tennis shoes, but he was my neighbor. He lived across the street from me. And I used to live by this shop a long time ago, but yeah.
Okay, this is a morality question.
First an attack question, then like, where are you at in your walk with Christ? Okay,
okay. You're making a PB&J. You put jelly on first or you put peanut butter on first?
Peanut butter.
Okay, all right. He's the same.
And I don't toast the bread anymore. Do you toast it?
No, I don't toast bread. No, I like it.
Somebody said something about that. Okay.
We can all agree here then.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. That was the end of my list. I might have more in my phone, but that's what I remember off the top of my head.
That's what I came up just now.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Well, man, thank you so much for being on the show.
Dude.
We really wanted to have you on for a while, so this is exciting.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
You want to go ahead? You can plug your Instagram, any projects you got working on or anything into the camera over there?
Yeah, Camera One.
Camera One.
So my name is Blaine. You can find me at all social media is the same. It's OLEBLAINE. I try not to be too annoying on there, but that's my social. If you're in New Orleans, stop by, say hey. I have a lot of people reach out to me to do like mentorships. I love doing that. It makes me really happy. So if you do want to ask me questions and things like that, I'm more than happy to answer those questions. I think that's it.
Awesome.
Just be nice, man.
There it is. It's just that
Don't be an asshole. I say after every spin class I teach, I always say, I hope you guys have a great day, but if you don't ruin anybody else's.
There you go.
And people like that. So
that should be the second collection. First one's be nice. Second one is don't be an asshole.
Yeah. On the back of the shirt, I put that on the last one for the collection too. I was like, if you don't have a good day, just don't ruin anybody else's, man. Go to your room and shut the fuck up.
And on that note, thanks for listening to another episode of State of the Shunion. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe because we're trying to get those people so we can get the URL because we look like really bootleg right now. But we'll get there eventually. Okay. Check us out on Instagram at Shoe Podcast and online at shoepodcast.com. We'll be back next week with another episode. I think that's it. Thank you, man.